we davened in the Beis Medrash, and all of a sudden, right before the chibur of the Arava, he goes up to the bima and claps on the things. He'd like to say something. What did he say? He says that what's the pshat? You have an Arava that a few hours before, you can't be yotzi a mitzvah without the Arava. You need all dalad minim. You need the lulav, the esrig, the hadassim, and the Arava. Without the Arava, you can't make a bracha, no sheyachi, nothing. All of a sudden, it comes Shana Rabbah. We take the same Arava and we start clapping it. She says, "What's pshat? Why are we clapping it for all of a sudden?" So he said over the Chazal. Chazal say that the esrig is daima to the tzaddik. He's has a smell, has a reach, and you're able to eat it. That's a daima to somebody who has Torah meisim tovim. And it goes to the hadassim, and when it comes to the Aravis are only don't have anything. There's daima to the Russia. It doesn't have meisim tovim. It doesn't have Torah. He says, Mamela, he says, when you have the Arava, when it's mechuber to the esrig and to the lulav, then it's taka. When a Russia wants to come to attach himself to Torah, to the G'dayla Eilam, and he wants to be attached to Yiddish and to the Torah, so then his taka is very chashiv, and taka you're not going to be yaitza your mitzvah. But as soon as you separate the Arava, and you now it's on its own, now it has no schus kiyam, and your mama's got to clap it. That's what he said. Nobody understood why was he saying this for. And then we found out there was a bacha there in yeshiva that had decided to go to a certain yeshiva, which I'd rather not name, that was not in the ruach of the Gedolim. And he felt he had to tell him, he had to right away. He saw him there, he says, I'm going to have to get up right away and tell him this is what I think about it. And he should know that when somebody goes off in the derech of the Gedolim and the derech of the Torah, derech HaYashar, he said, we're going to clap him. What happened to the bach, I don't know, but I just remember that story. And then the last nekuda, which basically what they're all talking about, is that this mamish astounded me throughout my years in yeshiva. I want to be makdim first with a gvaldig ara. That we know that take a look at the Guruvitz mishpacha. It's mamish a beautiful mishpacha. The children, the grandchildren, the great grandchildren, mamish all shomer Torah mitzvahs and derech hayashar. It's not so poshut to have a schus like that. And then you have the yeshiva here for over 41 years, and marbet stera, thousands of talmidim, mamish. What was the schus? How was he zaycha to that? I hold it's mefurish Rashi in Parshas Noach. The pasuk says, "V'le'eva yulat shnei banim, shem echad peleg, shem echad yakdan." Yakdan, it says, goes on to have 13 kids. It goes through the whole list of all the 13 kids. These are the children of Yakdan. Now, if you take a look in the parsha, you see, come on, everyone had maybe 3, 4, 5 children. So Yakdan had 13 children. What's the pshat? Sak Rashi. Rashi answers, Yakdan shaya anav umaktin atzmai lachein zacha lahamid kol mishpachas halalu. Because he was maktin himself, he was zaycha to all the mishpachas halalu. People don't realize that when you're maktin yourself, that is a siba for gedula. And the Lamaisa, this is exactly what Avraham was to be. He was a tremendous mamish, a tremendous anav, and he was maktin himself. Besides Taka, they never wore a frock, and he always sat in the back, and he was always unassuming. But anytime somebody would talk to him, he never ever gave away his godless. He'd always talk about gematrias and this type of small var. There never was anything like, and you take a look at his farm, like, what's Takar Pshat? He always was unassuming and always stayed away, but it was a lot deeper than that. And I hope the Rosh Yeshiva is going to be meichel me, but it's just to bring out a Gavalda and Hakuda. When I first came to Yeshiva, I was so surprised to see that the Rosh Yeshiva, the one that convinced me in every way possible to come to Yeshiva, he was given the lowest share. The first year, as soon as you come in, you go to him. Afterwards, they would go to the other Rosh Yeshiva. I was always wondering what's the pshat? Now, yeshiva in the world, would you find a Rosh Yeshiva that gives the lowest share? They always give the highest share. No matter where I never saw it. Maybe somebody could tell me, but I always see that they give the highest share. So I once had the guts and I asked him, "What's the pshat?" He says, "What do you mean?" He says, "I feel that it will be tails for the bachrim. These bachrim that are coming in, I felt that I would be the best for them." That shows somebody who's maked in his atzmai. He says he could have. Yeah, I'll be the highest. No, Dafka was maked in his atzmai just for the tails of the bachrim, but it goes even further. As I'll stay a little longer in yeshiva, I realized that it was a very strange thing. The other magidei shiurim in yeshiva, totally different than him, in every aspect. Mahalach halimud, in hashkafa, it's like it was mind-boggling to me, because when you want to pick a tzevet, when you want to have you go with your own derech. You find is that in Chevron they pick the Chevron derech, and Brisk they have the Brisk derech. But anyway, here we had a Panovitcher, Chaim Berlin, then we had from Brisk, and then you had an Israeli from Chevron. And you can see from the Hesped, it's different worlds. It's mamish in one, and it was a small yeshiva. It wasn't like the hundreds of talmidim. There were 45, 50 talmidim at most in each year, in those years, in way back then. And I'm mamish like nishleim, like how? So I went to him and asked him once. I said, "What's the pshat? Like, why didn't you get people that are your derech and your hashkafa?" He says, "What do you mean?" He says, "Bachurim are coming. They're young. Each one has their own tchunas and nefesh. Each one has their own things that they're attracted to." He says, why should I push everyone to think the way I want to think? I give them a choice now. I give them 3 different drachim. Let them decide for themselves which they feel which is the best one. I have no problem whatsoever. Such an amazing, but it goes even more than that. Okay, it's even worse than that. It's like no, it's just amazing how 1 week Avraham would say something. The next week, the other Magachir would say, not like that. And the third week, the next one would say, not like that. I mean, I don't think that there was ever a chance that all 3 agreed at the same thing. I think one thing I remember, that a Bacha is not allowed to go up to Meron on my Goyim. I think they all agreed. Everything else, it was Derek Klaus usually was 2 against 1. But Lamaisa, at the same time, everyone was different, everyone was... And I'm sorry, but they were Lamalach. They were stark in the Hashkafa. They were rooted in the Hashkafa. How in the world would you allow people to come in to say? And that was part of the contract. Everyone could say what they want, and they had no problem with it. And the way I understand it is, it's a davar pashut. He was not about himself. It was always about the yeshiva. It was always about the Bachar. As long as, obviously, you're talking about Chas Shalom, conservative reform. Obviously, you can't bring that into yeshiva. When we're talking about Hashkaf, it's just different messiahs, but different. But Al Pi Torah, it says let them all decide. Let them all decide what they want, and let them. And you want to argue with me in Hashkafa? It's like arguing with me in the Taisvis. It's the same Chumash Al Torah. It didn't make a difference. It wasn't about him, and it was mamish. There was a lot of differences, of opinions, no shayla about it. But machlekes, never, because it wasn't a personal. It was all Muhammad Shal Torah, and that's the way he was able to be maimin it, and that's the var of how he could be maimin such a mishpacha. Mamish like Yoktan, he was magdin atzmai. He did not put himself that this is what has to be done, and that's why he's able to be zeicha to all these mishpachas. Just like to end off, Chazal say in Erefin that a bra is kared avua. That a son is like the leg, the foot of his father. Which means after the father's nifter, the son can go ahead and do Torah mitzvahs and be a sus for the father up in Shemayim. The shayla is why the regel? Why not the what's it called? Why not the arms, the head? What's the vart, the regel? So I saw a davar pasuk. The pasuk in Zechariah says, "V'nesati l'cha mahalchim bein ha'im d'meila." When a person's in this world, he's a mahalach. He's able to grow and he's able to move and he's able to grow. But once you get into Shemayim, just like the malachim, just like a chafshi is a mace is chafshi min hamitzvus, he can't do anything. He's finished. He's an oimid. He can't go anything. He says, but how does a person be a mahalach? In what aver of the guf? It's only through the regel. The Mela, a ben has the kayach in order to be able to help his father be a mahalach in Shemayim is taka through the Torah mitzvahs, and he's like the regel. He's helping him be a mahalach in Shemayim. Chazal say v'shinamtum levanecha elu talmidim. So we have the opportunity as talmidim from Avraham Zatzal. All the talmidim to be able to give a special schus, to be able to be, it should be a mahalach in Shemayim, and we should continue and continue learning and to continue being a schus for him. Me personally, I'd like to thank Avraham and the Rebbitzin. They mama saved my life. I would not be where I am if not for them today. Thank you, and see what I have a good venture.